What's up, Lego builders? So welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for another week of building Cato Neimoidia. So if you guys remember at the end of last week, I showed you that I had to lengthen the entire mock, to be able to fit that city in. And so this week I'm going to be officially moving the mock and getting it in place, because what I was doing is basically just stretching out the current tables I had. So you probably saw, there are these growing gaps in between each of the tables, and I don't want that for the finished product. I want this to be on a nice sturdy surface, and you just don't want gaps there. So I'm going to be building another table, putting that in place, and moving one of the entire mountain sides back onto a new table, which should be exciting. I'm also going to be figuring out more of the city area. I need to decide how wide I want it to be. This is something I haven't really thought about too much, as I've been more focused with, other more important things. But now that I have those things down, I need to decide how wide is it going to be. This one I think is honestly probably going to be one of the more important things I decide with the city, because however long I decide to make the city is whatever, because the width of the city is going to help the most with proportioning, I think, because I could probably get away with making the city a little bit shorter just because it's already so long, maybe making the cable shorter. But if I have this big fat wide city dangling between these two cliffs, I feel like it's not going to look right. And these cities look very long and very almost narrow, for lack of a better word. I know I know the actual cities of Cato Neimoidia are actually really huge, but just the architecture and the way it was built made them look very slender. And so I want to try and capture that same look without making the city so narrow that I can't put buildings and minifigures in it. So should be a good fun week. All that being said, it's time to get down to business. Real quick before we get into the video, if you have enjoyed the building series so far for Cato Neimoidia, don't forget to drop a like down below, and of course comment what you thought about this video. And if you're new to the channel, watching for the first time, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future content or Cato Neimoidia updates. So I've got another one of the Ikea tables that I've been using for the mock. I really like these tables. They're lightweight, durable, they look really nice. And especially this blue color, I feel like it's not super bright and doesn't distract from the mock, but it's not too dark that I have trouble with lighting it or making sure you guys can see what's on the table. Unlike what I've run into with black tables where they tend to eat up so much light, it's hard to see what's on them. I've got Mrs. Coconut as well, and she is going to be helping me slide the mock back onto the new table. Basically what we're going to do is just slide it back in sections and then slowly maneuver it into the proper place. Table's in, and this is the new length of the mock. You can see it's much longer now. This comes in at over 6 feet long, which is insane. That is by far the longest and biggest really mock that I've ever done so far. And I'm really happy with this added length right here. It's going to give me a lot more space to work with in the city, just making it more grand and more appropriate and more fitting of these two giant cliffs. Downside, now I'm going to have to fill all of this with cloud pieces, which, as you can see, I haven't done much there. I've only continued to add more space that needs clouds instead of actually doing the clouds. I've also got this city taken down and set right here. Now that I know how to get that crescent shape and kind of what the city's going to be looking like a little bit better, I can take apart this temporary section and start to build what's actually going to go up here. Obviously, it's going to need to be built a little bit different than this, so I can hide these colors. It's going to have to be wider, it's going to have to be stronger, and all that kind of stuff. I think what I'm going to do for the city is use some of these larger wedge plates and stick them on the edge like this, some smaller ones at front. That way the edges of the city will kind of taper to a more narrower point. I feel like this will just make it look a little bit better than if it was just a solid rectangle floating up here. So I'm thinking about maybe having the city be about 32. I'm going to have two of these I'm thinking about maybe having the city be two of these 16 by 16 plates, and then these wedge plates on either side. So, at the end here, it'll be about just over 32 inches wide, but then as you go down into the middle of the mock, it'll get much wider because you'll have an extra 6 studs on each side. What I'm going to need to do is kind of put all that together and then set it back up and see if that looks all right. What I'm trying to figure out now that I have the techniques down is the proportions of this. I obviously don't want to make it too wide for this mock, or too skinny, or too long, or too short. So that's kind of that's going to be what I'm tackling next. I got a lot more work done on this bunker area on last Saturday's live stream. So you can see in there, I actually tiled off a bunch with some light bluish gray tiles and plates, and that's what the interior is going to look like. I don't plan on doing much more. I might put a light in there just to help illuminate it a little bit, maybe some crates, but that's going to be it for the most part. I don't plan on doing anything fancy there. I was able to build up a bunch of the rock work around this area, making it look a lot more complete and a lot more finished, and just helping me see like what this area is going to look like once it's done. And I'm pretty happy with it. I like the rock work up here. I like the chiseled look. And then you can see right here, I'm going with another patch of olive green. Up here, had to build like this little piece of like scaffolding or like a little balcony in order to continue building up this way, because underneath here are the doors. So I wasn't able to put any filler brick behind this wall like I was here. And so this is going to act as like the base, so I can continue work on filler brick here and then continue to build up the wall. I've been thinking a lot about how high I want to go with the rock work, and I'm thinking about maybe going to about right here or so, just because I don't need to go super high above this pad, and I'd obviously want to go above it just to simulate that the rock work keeps going, but I don't want to spend a ton of extra time and money on rock work like that if it's not super necessary. So we'll kind of see. I'll just kind of gauge by how good it looks. That's really what I'm going for at this point, is if it looks good or not. So I'm kind of just going to build until I think I'm good. I got a haul in the other day from none other than Bricks and Pieces, Lego.com. You can see it's got a ton of Black Falcon stuff in here. This looks like a mess. I'm going to have to sort all this out. But among all the castle stuff, we have some vital pieces for Cato Neimoidia, particularly 2x2 dark bluish gray tiles, as well as some of these 1x2 dark bluish gray cheese slopes. Now, I bought a bunch of these in particular from Bricks and Pieces because you can get them in much higher quantities for cheaper than on Bricklink. For some reason, dark bluish gray tends to be one of the more expensive colors to buy, that and light bluish gray. So if you're looking for a good place to get pieces, Bricks and Pieces is a good place to get some pieces. I wouldn't recommend it for everything. I would say overall Bricklink has cheaper prices, but there are a few things that are better to get. And typically light bluish gray and dark bluish gray I found are cheaper on Bricks and Pieces. So I bought a ridiculous amount of cheese slopes and tile just because I knew, I was going to need a bunch for the cables on Cato Neimoidia and just for future projects. I pretty much always use dark bluish gray and light bluish gray in my larger mocks recently and probably going forward in the future. So I figured, they'd be a good investment even if I had some extra pieces. Did also get some of these half pegs in for the cable links. And then I think the rest after that is going to be castle stuff. I think I've got like 20 something Black Falcon minifigures in here along with weapons and stuff. So I'm going to have to get all this sorted and put the correct pieces to the correct mocks. I think I may have finally figured out the right width for the city. At first, I tried the two 16 by 16 plates right up here at the top. So basically, at its narrowest, it would be 32 studs wide, and then jump down here to 44 studs wide, and that was just way too wide. I held it up here, comparing it to the cliffs, and it would have just looked super strange having this big old fat thing hanging between these. So I dropped it down, tried out a couple more things, and I think I might have found the happy medium. So this is going to be just over 32 studs wide here in the middle area, and then come down to smaller, and then come down to a smaller length here at the ends. I'm pretty happy with how this looks. You can see holding it up to the city, holding it up, you can see holding it up to the cliff, it doesn't look too bad. Unfortunately right now I can't build more because I'm out of these plates and out of the socket joints that go on the ball joints, because I would like to build the whole thing, because I feel like until I build the whole thing and compare it, I'm not really going to know what a good width is, because just looking at half of it isn't going to give me a good complete picture or a good comparison to go off of. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do I'm not really sure what I'm going to work on next, because I'm kind of waiting on parts for some other things. And now I'm going to have to go ahead and order some more parts for the city, but I'm hoping to really sit down and get the city section figured out this week. Then I can order in all the parts and really just crank through the city, because what I would like to do is get this all built, get it attached, and then just go ahead and crank out the city and the sides and stuff. So, but I can't really plan for the top of the city or the sides or even how it connects to the cliffs until the whole bridge section is finished. On an unrelated note, I picked up these little angel looking warriors from my local bricks and minifig store. They were like $4.50 each. I really like them. I have a cool little mock plan for these guys, and they were just sitting here on the table next to me, so I just thought I'd show them off. So unfortunately, I think that's going to wrap up this week for Cato Neimoidia, just because like I was talking about, so much of the design and building of this city is contingent upon this bridge section being finished so I can build around it. But I do have more ball and socket joints coming in hopefully next week, and I can always make do with smaller plates. I don't have to have 16 by 16 plates. So once I get those ball and socket joints in, we should be back. I should be able to continue working on this. So probably next week, hopefully I can get this finished and then continue to move forward. All that being said, it's time to hit the outro. Another week down of building Cato Neimoidia. This one was a bit anticlimactic for me as I ran out of pieces. I was kind of hoping to have the whole city frame done, but I need to wait on more plate and ball joints. That being said, I think now that I have the general dimensions figured out, I should be able to crank out the rest of the city pretty quickly. I'm also coming up within a couple of weeks, I'm probably going to have the building talk, and it's something that I've been thinking about for a while because the buildings on Cato Neimoidia are actually gold. So I'm going to have to at some point address what exactly I'm going to be doing about that. All that being said, thank you guys all so much for watching. Don't forget to let me know what you thought about this episode down below in the comments, and I will catch you guys later, but until next time, happy building.